Well then, it is a busy week for Newcastle United as loads of Geordies arrive in Germany today ahead of the Bayer Leverkusen game tomorrow night. And then it's the big one on Sunday. Newcastle take on Sunderland. So we'll talk about both of them in this video as well. Off the pitch, new sporting director Ross Wilson has spoken on his hopes heading into the January window and has brought in a new scout who is not UK based. That's right, Newcastle will be looking further afield this January window with two names being spoken about in the last few days. Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Toon Tuesdays, your weekly-ish roundup of Newcastle United news, reporting live from England. No, I'm not in Germany, I am sat outside getting some fresh air. It's not raining, and as I say, plenty to talk about in the world of Newcastle. So if you are enjoying the content, do me a favour, drop a like and subscribe to the video. And as I say, big up to all the Geordies who have travelled out there for the Bayer Leverkusen game. I did go to Germany 2 years ago. Was one of the best trips I've ever been on. The Germans loved it. The beers were flying, the Steins. So yeah, if you're out there, enjoy it. The only downside against Dortmund was we didn't win. We did not win that game, but I'm hoping it will be a different story tomorrow night. Bayer Leverkusen obviously done very well in the last couple of years. This season, yeah, I've been a little bit more iffy, and despite Newcastle not having the greatest of away form, you know, we beat Man City, we have 4-0 against Everton away, beat Burnley at the weekend, 2-1 against Marseille. I'm hoping we can pick up some more points in this Champions League. And look, if we can finish in that top 8 spot, would be awesome. But undoubtedly, even 5 days away, still got that eye on the Sunderland game at the weekend. So let me know your early predictions down below for the Sunderland game and the Bayer Leverkusen game. Look, if you'd spoke to me about the derby 2 months ago, the way we were playing, the way they were playing, I wouldn't really have wanted to answer that question. And look, it's the first, well, obviously we played them in the FA Cup, the first league derby in ages. Undeniably, prior to that FA Cup game 2 years ago, we hadn't had the greatest derby record. So, yes, they've come in, by all intents and purposes, have done really well so far this season. Heading down there, it will be tough. So if you want to let me know your predictions on that one as well, let me know down in the comments. But as I've mentioned, plenty going on off the field as well as Newcastle look already to the January. I say already, it's because Christmas just creeps up on you. With 3 weeks to go until the January window opens, and from reports coming out, Newcastle want to be active in this window, and yet, according to Ross Wilson, because of the Isak sale, have money to spend. And he's already making a move. We've brought in a new scout from Nottingham Forest, Thomas Federspiel. I think I might have nailed that. 60 years old, but has some fantastic experience. Worked at Leverkusen, Wolfsburg, Wolfenheim, and Mönchengladbach, and is set to go out and start his scouting. You know, as we've discussed through the summer window, there was a lot of Eddie Howe, likes English players, likes local players, likes quote-unquote proven players. And then Elanga, who was meant to be the most proven of the lot, has really struggled. You know, Wizza, who was proven, got injured and hadn't really played. And then you look at the likes of a Voltemade, who was a little bit more off the cuff, slightly maybe different to what we'd expected to bring in, but has scored goals for us. And then, obviously, the main man, the German centre-back, comes in and has absolutely smashed it. You know, Fabian Schär himself has spoken about that in the last couple of weeks, saying, that he's upset to not be getting the game time anymore, but that he's also not daft, and he understands football. And when Malik Chow comes in and plays the way he is, he understands. So if there's a knock on Eddie Howe's door to say, come on, fair enough, you want to try and bring that Premier League proven, there is certainly reason to look further afield. And the countries that Federspiel, don't think I got it quite as good that time, are looking at is Brazil, Ecuador and Colombia. Now, can this man get to work as quickly in the next 3 weeks and start to scout and bring players over this January from those countries? Maybe not, but Did I call him Ross Wilson or did I call him David Wilson earlier? Ross Wilson, the new sporting director, has come out and, as I say, not given loads of info. You know, he's going to hold his cards close to his chest, but has spoken on, you know, what he hopes to see this January. And I think what he said, you know, he's not going to come out and go, we're going to spend all the money. You know, the reports coming out are that not to expect the spend that we saw from Newcastle in the summer, because for all intents and purposes, we did spend quite a lot. I won't bang on about it, but we've discussed this before. I don't think Newcastle really raised our ceiling going into this window. I think what we did is we elevated our bottom, if you know what I mean. We've elevated out that lower end. Our worst 11 is better than our worst 11 from last season, but our top grade probably hasn't really gone up that much. And I think despite the spend, I think what we maybe lacked was maybe just that little bit of extra creativity within the window, and maybe taking a few little risks and taking a few little chances. And Ross Wilson has said as much himself that he wants to be creative and he wants to try and bring that little bit of touch of magic to Newcastle in this January window. And scouting countries in the likes of Brazil, Colombia and Ecuador, I think will just maybe give us that little bit of sparkle. Just give us that little bit of something that maybe we didn't quite achieve in hoping to bring in this window. And as I've mentioned, despite the hopes of proven players, you can see already in the last couple of months the names being spoken about are younger players from further afield. Keith Schmidt, the AZ Alkmaar player, Dutch player, I swear I saw someone said he was 21 the other day. I'm sure he's only 19 years old, has been catching the headlines for Newcastle. Keith Downey was talking about this guy months ago, but reports coming out this morning that maybe it won't be quite as easy. It's never easy to sign anybody in any window anymore, but maybe might not be quite as easy as Newcastle first thought. So reports coming out this morning that, the reports coming out from Keith Downey 2 months ago and Craig Hope over the weekend were that AZ Alkmaar would not stand in the way for 19-year-old Keith Schmidt to leave the football club as long as the price was right. And the price was right. And the price discussed was around that £20 to £25 million mark. And I was going to go two ways there. 19-year-olds spending 20 to 25 million on a 19-year-old from anywhere is always going to be, you know, that risk of what that player could become. Having said that, these days in the market, you buy anyone for 20, 25 million, and generally speaking, you've probably done all right for yourself. And I think that's the problem. AZ Alkmaar are seeing this guy flourish throughout the start of their season, and when Newcastle, the headlines and other teams are picking up on him, it's easy for them to turn around and go, actually, did we say that was all, we were going to let him go for 20 million? Oh, well, actually, we're not sure now. Actually, we might have a think about this. And I think they're playing hardball. So Newcastle aren't digging their heels in just yet. I think it's far too early to do so. Instead, a new name coming out at the weekend, French lad Kevin Danios from the French team Auxerre, just 21 years old. Again, not as far afield as Brazil, Ecuador and Colombia, but two players there from foreign countries with a younger age and can hopefully come in, grow. I think Newcastle set out this summer to really try and bring in some names and bring in some players that would hit the ground running, and some have and some haven't. I'll be very interested if Newcastle were to put their stake in the ground and really push for another £100 million player this January. I don't see it. I see the money is there. I think, as I said, Ross Wilson has essentially come out and said that there is money available. I think we all know what happened with Alexander Isak and that the money will be available, but I can't see us quite going out and flourishing that same amount of spend. Having said that, if we can get into January with a great chance in the Champions League, if we can have that December run that we want to have and be in a good place heading into the January in the Premier League with the Carabao Cup still active, the FA Cup still active, then I think it only makes sense that Newcastle go on and spend that money. But as I say, it all starts this week. It all starts again. Every game's a big game. And it starts again tomorrow night against Bayer Leverkusen. So thoughts and comments down below on the game tomorrow, the game on Sunday. Do you think Newcastle should go out and take that Isak pot and slam it on the table and really push this January? Or do you think it's sensible that we, as I say, not grow for the future? I'm not talking about bringing more 15-year-olds in. We've seen Newcastle do that. Again, we've seen a number of youngsters come in at Newcastle, join the academy or under 21s or whatever we're calling it now. We aren't seeing too many of them really starting to push through into the first team. Obviously, that's something that we want to continuously see in the background, but I just feel like we need to just bulk that squad a little bit more. You talk about the rotation. Eddie Howe's getting better at it. You can see Eddie Howe rotating players. We talk about the full-back positions. You talk about, the minute God Almighty, I don't even want to say it, touch this tree behind us, Latino goes down on the ground. I'm going, oh my God, I can't take it. Never mind the score of the match. I'm praying that nobody else gets injured. So despite bringing in players, we are still having that constant role of, is everyone going to be okay? I think it makes sense that we look to push and really bring in a little bit of more flair, a little bit more push. I love Tonali, he scores goals. Miley scored a goal recently, but we even saw it against Burnley. We're still relying on Bruno from that centre midfield to bring the ball forward. And the likes of Keith Smith is a player who will drive, will create. And I think Newcastle could really do with just that, and Ross Wilson said it himself, just that little bit more creative essence in the squad. So let me know your thoughts on that down below. Right, I'm going to head off. We know it's starting to run again because it's freezing. But thoughts and comments down below on the games coming up. What do you want to see Newcastle achieve this January window? Stick around for the content. Subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll catch you later.